Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. This is your host Vaibhav. In our today's session of JForex Indicators Explained, we are going to continue working with Hilbert transform series of indicators. We have seen some of the indicators, including the dominant cycle period and the Hilbert transform trend line, the ST trend line. We are now going to look at the Hilbert transform dominant cycle phase indicator, and from the name you can make a guess that this indicator will give us the idea, the knowledge of the existing phase of the underlying instrument, the instrument of our choice, and if there is any change in the phase, if there is a significant fluctuation, that will show up instantaneously quite early without much of a lag on these indicators output value. So we can rely on these indicators to give us the info, the insight into the market dynamics and the change therein. We can figure out the trend of the market, and if there are any changes in the ongoing trend, we can also change our strategies, change our trading style, change our trading position to suit the evolving market scenarios. So let us now head to the JForex 4, the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. Here is the chart of the Euro USD with each channel predefined at hourly. Now I am going to add this indicator with a quick search. Hilbert. So we have these Hilbert transform series of indicators where it's the turn of dominant cycle phase. Alright, here it comes. Now in these plotting of the indicator itself, you can see that this output doesn't really work or is not really plotted in a linear fashion. There are these changes, sudden shift in these plotting of the indicator. In most indicators, we see continuity and not much of an abrupt change, but this is a distinct indicator with a distinct output plotting. Here we can know these phase change instantaneously as and when there is this plotting with this sudden shift with drastic change in the output value, and this signifies the change in the current market phase or the start of a new phase. And we have to use these output value, the HDDC phase output parameter, with the price action data in conjunction with the price action data. If the current trend is ongoing and we are seeing the price move in the same direction with the existing trend, then all we have to see is if the new phase, the start of the new phase, the changing phase is signaling the continuation or the start of a new phase in the ongoing trend, or if there is a significant price reversal and now the prior trend is changing and there is a start of the new phase in a new trend. So we have to look at these possibilities, because with the phase change, you don't really get the direct inference that the trend is also changing. You simply have to consider it as a phase change. The prior phase is now ending and a new phase is starting. So that can be also interpreted as a continuation of the existing trend, and if there is a significant price reversal, it can be also inferred as a trade change. So we have to look at these possibilities and plan our trades accordingly. So you will always have to look at the price data to see what is happening in the market, and with that price data, you can then combine the knowledge of this new phase, the beginning of the new phase, to optimize your trades, because it is better to go for the entry near the start of a new phase, and in that context, these indicators serve a useful purpose because we all want to get involved in the market at the beginning of the trend or at the beginning of the new leg of the move in the existing trend. So in that context, this indicator is going to come quite handy. If we look at the price moves and this plotting of the Hilbert transform DC phase indicator for last couple of days, you will see that we would have been in a position to profit from these changes. There are two possibilities with these Hilbert transform dominant cycle phase indicator. We can use it in a couple of ways, and I will make you familiar with some of the ways in which we can use. As I already explained, one is when there is this sudden shift in the phase, we can consider it as a start of a new phase for the underlying instrument and plan our trades accordingly. Another way is to look at these linear increase in these HT-DC phase indicators output, but if there is a sudden change in these output and the rate of change changes, then also we can interpret it as a significant development in the market and plan our trades accordingly. Here you can see that prior to these phase change for this Hilbert transform dominant cycle phase indicator, we had this sudden shift with this acceleration being seen in the plotting of the DC phase indicators output. And if we look at the chart, it was also the time when the price momentum was picking up for the euro on the lower side after consolidating and stagnating around these levels little above 1.07. We saw this sharp decline setting in, and that time we saw this rate of change also accelerating for the Hilbert transform DC phase indicator, and we had this sudden shift on the lower side. Now, if we go back in time, you will see these changes, and if we observe it carefully, we have had these phase changes as well as these sudden change, significant moves in the rate of change of the DC phase. So in both ways, we can put this indicator to use. I will not give you much details on how it is calculated. Maybe ChatGPT can give you a better answer, instantaneous answer, and you can get the formula therein. You can also consider other platforms, even a simple search will throw up good answers for this question. So I am not going to dwell much on the formula. We are going to look at the practical uses of these indicator. So here, as we looked at these two possibilities, two possible distinct uses. Now, look at some examples of the initiation of a new bullish trend as well as a new bearish trend. Here, for the example, we had this bearish momentum with this phase change denoting that the existing trend has now ended in for the time being, you can say, because after that the price moves were going simply sideways, and here we got these phase end signal generated with these HT DC phase output sharply dipping change in phase was signified. So after that, we saw the start of the sideways trend with this prior downtrend ending somewhere around here. After that, the price moves continued to go sideways with not much of a movement on either side. And then we saw this sharp move also heralding the change of the momentum for Euro USD, and now the momentum seems to have shifted in a bearish territory with this new phase beginning for the Euro USD. So now if you want to go for the initiation of the short sale trade, all you have to do is keep the stop loss just little above these prior swing high, and you can keep looking for new short selling opportunities for next couple of hours because this is the beginning of a new phase for Euro USD. So this is also one way to utilize this indicator for figuring out the short sell trade. Same thing we can do in a inverted fashion when there is a price move on the higher side and a shift in the output value of these DC phase indicators. We can look at this plotting of the indicator and consider the price moves along with the DC phase output value and see what we can do in terms of optimizing our entry point. We can go for an initiation of the new trade. For last couple of days, couple of weeks, the USD has been bearish, so we have had this continuation of the bearish trend, and in the same trend, we would have been provided multiple opportunities with these distinct phases of the bearish move in the underlying instrument, that is Euro USD, and we would have been in a position to optimize our trade setup accordingly. So even if there is continuation of the ongoing trend, you can still have that trend divided in distinct phases and you can plan your trades accordingly. Now if we have to go back in time to figure out some bullish examples, so here I think we are likely to find some examples of these Euro USD's continuation of the bullish momentum, and even in those scenarios we had these distinct changes in the plotting of these output value. And if you wanted to go for a new trade, it would have been better to initiate the trade after the phase change and when the signs started to emerge that now this new phase is also going to be the continuation of the uptrend. So that would have been a good time to get involved, and after we have seen these DC phase output again climbing up and stabilizing on the higher side, that would have been the time to go for the profit booking, optimize our trades, make an exit with decent amount of money, and wait for these phase to change again before we can initiate the trade. So that would have been a good strategy of working with this indicator. So with this, I have tried to give you some of the examples, some of the ways in which we can utilize this indicator, the Hilbert transform dominant cycle phase. Now let us see what are the editing options provided to us on this platform. There is not much we can do in terms of the calculation. The calculation is going to be fixed. Even the calculation period cannot be varied for this indicator. It is going to be calculated as per its predefined formula. All we can do is change this applied price, and depending on the applied price we are opting for, we will have slight changes in the plotting of this indicator. We have this possibility. Now coming to the output parameter, we can go for changes in this plotting as well. We can go for different color combination as per our choice. Styling can also be varied. Width, if you feel that it is not looking prominent enough, you can increase the width and make it look much more prominent. And if you feel that it is looking too prominent on the chart, you can simply increase the transparency factor and it will become a lot less prominent, and you can have multiple indicators added on the chart without making the chart look too cluttered. Levels, you can add the levels like say for example 0 or any other value which you feel is going to be helpful. You can do that. So this option has been provided. Coming to the advanced editing option, the calculator you can run only is really not going to make much of a difference. And at the time period zone, since we can't vary the calculation rate, is also irrelevant for these indicator. Custom data, you can have the instrument from the chart or you can define it separately. You can use the time period similarly, you can use it from the chart or you can even use a different predefined candle period for the purpose of calculation of the indicator, and we will have these plotting accordingly. Spread side can be asked for width or simply used from the chart. Show indicator on all the candle periods. So if you want the indicator to be available whenever you change the chart's candle period, you can do that, or else you can specify on which particular time frame you want this indicator to be available, and only on those certain time frames this indicator will be plotted in this manner on the lower side of the chart, but not on the other time frame. So you can have multiple indicators added on different time frames to gather data from multiple formations and make an informed trading decision. Base period doesn't make much of a difference for this indicator, so this option is also irrelevant for this indicator. All right. So that's all from my side for today's session of the JForex indicators explained, where I try to give you some of the examples of how to use these indicator for figuring out the trading opportunities. You can use it for generating the buy as well as the sell signals, and as I said, you can use it as a continuation and also as a trend change signaling mechanism. Both these possibilities are there with the indicator, and it will help you optimize your trade entry and exit points. So for the day, my job is done. Unless you ask me any questions, if you have any of you have any query or any idea to share, do write to me the feedback, and I will be more than happy to take the discussion forward. I will be back tomorrow with another interesting indicator of the Hilbert transform series. We will see how we can utilize this concept to figure out the opportunities to trade profitably in the market. So thank you all for joining in. Have a fabulous time ahead. See you next time around. Till then, goodbye.